Hey everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Discourse. My name is Brendan Lotz, and this week we're joined by a really interesting guest and a conversation that I've been hoping to have for quite a while. We have Sean joining us from Centennial Schools, and we'll be chatting about esports. Good afternoon, Sean. How are you?
Afternoon, Brendan. I'm very well, thank you.
Maybe if you could start off telling us who you are and what you do.
So, teacher by training. I've been in education for just over 32 years, and history teacher actually, and sports coach. And I've kind of followed a path in education from obviously teaching to as a principal of a school of Crawford Lonial for many years, and then ran at the management side as managing director of two group Crawford schools, and then eventually Redham House for Inspired Schools. And then decided in 2021, really 2020, to open my own school, which is Centennial Schools. So I'm effectively the CEO and founder of Centennial Schools.
Oh, can you tell us more about Centennial Schools? What sort of grades do you guys offer? Yeah, tell us a bit more about that. That's really interesting.
So we have one campus at the moment, based in Sunny Hill, Santon, and the campus runs grade 6 through to grade 12. So we opened in 2022. When you open a new school in Gauteng, the department only allow you to open up to grade 9. So we opened grade 7, 8, and 9. And then our nines from the time we opened will next year be our first matric group. So you obviously then fill up as from the bottom up. We decided to add grade 6 into it because I think the curriculum that grade 6s are exposed to is completely deficient of the skill set that they actually need to cope within a middle school, high school environment. So we effectively run two schools. We run a middle school, grade 7, 8, and 9, and then a senior school, grade 10, 11, and 12, and then tagged onto the back of the bottom of the middle school are our grade 6s. Our plan is to open our next campus in the Western Cape. There's huge demand for what Centennial Schools offers, and that hopefully will open in 2026.
Oh wow, that's really cool. And what qualification do your students get once they've completed their studies?
Look, we run the national CAPS curriculum.
Okay.
We write the IEB exams like every other private school. But what's completely unique about Centennial Schools is we've changed the pedagogy. In other words, how we teach, and that has been driven by technology. We, of course, have added additional subjects to it. So all our students, certainly grade 6 through to grade 9, every single student does coding. They do gaming gaming studies as a subject. Your grade 6s are very involved in software called Purple Mash, which gamifies things like maths, gamifies things like history, certain subjects. Your grade 7s do the Adobe suite, so they are driving content creation. They are busy at the moment making a movie, and they have to produce it. They have to create, they have to direct, they have to do musical score. Your grade 8s do entrepreneurship for an entire year, where we partnered with a Canadian organization, and you've again gamified the running of a business. So they have to develop CI, they have to develop budgets, they have to look strategically at where they're going to locate their business and run their business. Your grade 9s do blockchain and crypto, so they open wallets, they trade. We get professionals to come in and teach them about crypto and blockchain. So again, the current education system has been dysfunctional in my mind for the last probably 3, 4, 5 decades. And certainly what's being taught today, the curriculum has not changed since 1996.
Yeah.
So, and the way that the students are being taught today has not changed for the last 200 years. So Centennial Schools completely disrupts that. And I know our students, when they leave, I have 10-year-olds that are touch typing. I mean, unbelievable. I mean, completely fluent in Outlook, completely fluent in Microsoft. I mean, it's a skill set we've given them that university students don't have. It's just incredibly exciting.
Yeah, I mean, just hearing you talking about stuff like, especially the entrepreneurship and the content creation side, like I think those are such important skills to have going into the future. Like I know right now AI is the hot button topic, but I mean that transcends, or sorry, breaks down into so many other different sort of spheres of education that it sounds like Centennial Schools is exposing its learners to. I think it's a really and it shouldn't I shouldn't have to say this, but it's a very modernized way of looking at education. But like you say, education hasn't changed for many decades at this point. I know myself. I have many teachers who are friends, and we'll often talk about how it just feels like kids are being passed through certain areas of life or through school just to get a pass, and then it becomes the university's problem, and the university is also not really taking initiative and helping kids learn where they should be directing their focus. So it's really comforting to hear that there's a school such as yours that's embracing this modern life and modern tools that we need to educate people about.
Thank you. You're absolutely correct. And, a simple question. When you matriculate and you have that matric certificate, what are you qualified to do?
Exactly.
Nothing.
Yeah.
And another argument, you write your matric exam. So we have one exam that assesses our entire 12 years of education. One exam.
Yeah.
That determines it. So if I'm really feeling sick, I've eaten something bad, but I'm still going to go and write my maths, and I'm going to do badly because I've been sick. That has been the benchmark then for my 12 years of education. Absolutely unacceptable.
That's appalling.
That same exam that's written in October, November of the matric finals, ask those same students to write the exact same assessment in January the 19th, more or less, when they get their results. And I guarantee you the results will be literally halved because we haven't taught our students anything in terms of a curriculum that's relevant to what's happening in today's world. Another good example, we have our grade 9s have their grade 9 information evening to select subject choice for the grade 10, 11, 12. So your FET phase, and that's next week. And parents will ask me, well, we need to do psychometric assessments for our kids. What do they want to do? And I said, you do not do that. Do not spend a single cent on those assessments because 85% of the jobs that these kids are going to go into right now do not exist.
Yeah.
So what are we teaching them? What are we going to tell them? It's absurd into how education has not moved. And we had the perfect opportunity to do it post-COVID, but we didn't.
Yeah.
And that's where Centennial Schools came in. We literally disrupted what we're doing. We obviously bound by legislation. I can't start my own curriculum. Yeah. I wish I could. We can't. By law, I have to follow National CAP's curriculum unless I'm offering Cambridge, which is still, there's nothing amazing about Cambridge, or an alternative curriculum that's recognized. So it is such a pity that education hasn't moved on.
But I think it's important just to bring it back to that. It's how you teach that curriculum as well, right? Like you can cover business, or back in my day it was called business economics, but you can apply that in different ways. You can apply that to a modern way of thinking, which I think is what a lot of schools are lacking, really.
Yeah, Brendan, I use a very good example as well. I'm a history teacher. I think I told you that in the beginning. So historians, we like to substantiate our arguments with facts or evidence, right? So we look at, and I say to parents often when we do interviews, I'll say to them, when's the last time you took a piece of paper, you punched it, you opened a LibreArts file, you got file dividers, you put that into the file, and then you put it in your cupboard. And they laugh at me. That's cheapers. We haven't done that in years. But your best schools in the country are teaching like that right now. and your parents are paying 160, 200,000 rand a year so that their children can go through an education system that the schools have not been prepared to change.
Yeah. It's astounding. It's really astounding. Right. Okay. So, on building off of that, one of the kind of headline things that we've covered in the past with regards to Centennial Schools is your kind of investments into esports. And speaking to you now about how Centennial Schools came to be, it makes sense why you got into esports. But perhaps you could expound on it and explain to us what kind of was the thinking behind introducing esports as sort of a extracurricular activity, and then also your focus on gaming is, as regards the actual teaching of students.
So Sure. So I'm not a gamer at all, believe it or not. So my traditional rugby coach, water polo coach, history teacher, and went to a very traditional school, JP High School for boys, and so gaming wasn't something that I'd really did. When I was a youngster with my mates, we had Atari and we kind of played, and you had the little badminton or tennis where you had the little bar that you had to hit the button. I mean, it was it was right in the early 80s in terms of how sort of gaming started. And so coming into lockdown, my nephew, who was staying with us at the time, had Xbox, and being the historian, I'm like, okay, well, let's get Call of Duty World War II. So while I'm busy doing the Normandy landings in 6 June 1944, I'm in the trenches and running through, first of all, getting completely nauseous because I'm not a gamer. I don't know how gamers do this. But I was absolutely astounded by the realism and the historical value in me playing that game. I was like, this is incredible. The more we went into lockdown, the more, and I started putting together the concept of Centennial Schools, I understood that of the 7 billion people on this planet, 3.5 billion are gamers. So what did we do? We open a new school, we change the pedagogy, we change the learning space, and then we build a water polo pool so that 20 or 30 students out of the 450 can play water polo. I'm like, no, it doesn't make sense, because of those 450 students, literally 450 of them are gamers. So if we can take that, we can bring it into the curriculum, we can offer it as a sport. I actually think we're going to be doing our students a massive service, as opposed to a disservice and just doing the same thing that every other school does when they open as a new school or existing school. So the idea of then starting the esports was a huge amount of research. I obviously have found nothing in South Africa like this. I'd referred to some sort of universities in American colleges that were doing esports, that had esports arenas. South Korea, we had some information from there, and then we started putting it together and obviously building. We have this 300 square meter esports arena that we kitted out with different areas. So we have this 30 sort of station gaming lab. We partnered with ASUS. We got all the top spec computers in, ROG computers. We made sure that they really were well spec'd. So your 13th generation i7 CPUs, 30 series graphics cards. We even went the extra mile, getting screens with high refresh rates so that we could ensure the students are playing with high-end equipment when developing their skills in that. So we really put a huge amount of effort and investment into designing this. So you've got that. You've got a casting studio for students who want to learn to cast.
Wow.
You've got FIFA Lounge, which we're a Microsoft school, so we kind of went the route of Xbox. So those are console driven. So you have students who are wanting to compete in FIFA. We then built 6 sim races, so Formula One. So students literally and we put the interactive steerings in. We have seats can be adjusted. They've got the pedals, the paddles. So we really went to town to make this as immersive as possible and realistic as possible. And then we ended up finishing off with our competition arena, which is a 5v5 setup. So when we host tournaments and eventually your quarterfinal, semi-final, final takes place on the stage with spectator seating cast onto massive 75-inch TVs. And then obviously your kind of casters are casting in the back studio to who is ever watching at that time, whether we're streaming it or whether they are live in the actual esports arena. So we really created the most incredible setup for our students who absolutely love it.
I mean, I'm kind of sitting here thinking, how can I, as the 37-year-old man, go back to school? Because this sounds incredible. I mean, just the specs of the notebooks or the hardware that you have, the care that it seems that you guys have taken into developing this arena. I mean, I don't think there are tournament organizers in the world who take as much care as this. I'm kind of speechless here, Sean. This is quite incredible. Did you have any help in developing this arena? Did you consult with any local tournament organizers, any esports organizations?
So I reached out to as many people as possible via email, obviously conversations. Remembering at the time it was lockdown, so one people were completely shocked that you're opening a new school, you're disrupting education, you're bringing in esports. There's going to be contact. It's lockdown and that. But I mean, when you're an entrepreneur and you kind of have a vision, you stick to it and you believe in your gut and you follow it. And so it was really about consulting as many people as I could, including students who were teenagers, what do you like? What works for you? What doesn't work? Because how many kids who are gamers have got the most incredible setups in their rooms at home? So they also know. So I really try to get as much expertise as possible and obviously do as much research as possible in putting it together. And the guys at ASUS were absolutely brilliant in supporting us. They still are. Every single one of our students on campus has a laptop. That's how we teach, and they are all ASUS laptops. So they've been really incredible and supportive with us. We work with the guys from RGB Gaming who do a lot of push into schools, particularly primary schools, on gaming and using a platform so that students can securely game in that with tournaments. And they've helped us a lot. So yes, it's collaborative work putting all this stuff together.
Yeah. I'm especially impressed that you spoke to students because, I mean, ultimately this is for them. And I feel like it's great that you let them have a say as well.
Yeah, good. Thank you. Without a doubt. I mean, the students, and I think that's often where schools go wrong is regardless of what it is and what you're doing, your students are key stakeholders. They are the most important stakeholders in a school. Yeah. If you aren't speaking to them, who are you speaking to? Yeah. Because I don't know.
It's once again, I shouldn't have to say this, but it's very visionary, Sean. It's very forward thinking. And I feel like I shouldn't have to say this. I feel like this should be the norm. But yeah, it's very much respect to you.
Thank you.
So I want to touch on the games. You mentioned FIFA and F1. What sort of games do you guys, I guess, coach is the word at Centennial Schools?
So one of the immediate challenges that I picked up was age restriction. So which is governed by the same board that governs movies, that you can't take a kid to a restricted movie of 16 or 18 or whatever it is. Mm-hmm. So at home, what you're doing at home, if you're 15 or 16 and your parents are happy, that's fine. At school, we can't. So we are governed by that. So we are very specific in terms of that at the moment. We focus on Minecraft. So Minecraft huge, particularly in our middle school. I'm not sure if you'd heard our grade 7s first team, as we have esports as an extramural and a proper sport. So our first team had competed in the Minecraft tournament that RGB had set up in South Africa, and had Redstone Royale, and they beat the schools in South Africa. We then went on to compete with schools in Africa, from Kenya, Rwanda, I think Botswana, Zambia. We beat them, and then we were flown all expenses to Dubai to compete at the Dubai Esports Festival, which is their largest festival next to their fitness festival, in a full arena. And we competed against 7 of the top schools in Dubai, and we beat them. So our kids in Minecraft are really incredibly good, and it makes sense because what we've done is we've gamified learning. So we've brought that into the curriculum. So our students were absolutely incredible with that. So Minecraft is huge for us. Counter-Strike, Rocket League, and Valorant at the moment. So that's where we are. Obviously FIFA, and then Formula One in terms of the sim races.
So something I do just want to touch on is esports is very much you sitting in front of a screen. And something that I've noticed personally from watching sort of the pro level esports over the years is a focus on physical fitness as well. Is that something that you also sort of encourage within the learners who are doing esports? Are you encouraging them to, as us gamers like to say, go out and touch grass now and then?
So I'm so pleased you raised that. Well, I'd mentioned that my own background was physical sports, so water polo, rugby, and had been competing in gym and powerlifting. So I'd always been very physical in terms of my own competitions and competitive sport. And so one of the things that we did in the research that I'd put together when putting the school together was your top professionals have a very rigid physical program. So what we do with ours, you sign up for esports. So we have a esports coordinator. So like you have a sports coordinator, you have a rugby coach. We have an esports coach, esports coordinator, and the esports coordinator gets the list from our sports coordinator. So at the school, you have a fully equipped fitness center. So we focus more on CrossFit type of fitness, so a lot of focus on core. We have a gym, we have a boxing, we have yoga, we have basketball, soccer, netball, and sort of action hockey. So that's what we offer on campus. So a student cannot. So Brendan, who's in grade 8, Brendan Lotz can't go. He arrives for his esports practice on Tuesday afternoon, but he hasn't done last week. He didn't do any of his physical ones. Cheers, Brendan, you're out. When you complete your physical stuff, you may come to the esports.
Okay.
So we have that list every week, updated from the physical sport guys, send it through to the esports. We all work on the same system and we check it. The reality is new students to the school might try that in the first week or 2 of January. After that, no issue. No issue. The kids know and they understand because you also explain to them the focus on core strength. Okay, and why they need it and what's important in terms of their gaming and the health benefits. So it's not just a punishment. It's actually you need to do this. And so our students, it's become part of our DNA. Esports, physical sports, you have to do.
I mean, it's absolutely about balance. I know I wish somebody had told me back in the day that sitting in a chair 8 hours at a time is not really good if you are not physical at all. And that's not just standing up. It's moving around. It's going for a walk, doing some like you say, some core exercise. And also, I mean, esports is also about endurance as a player. Like sometimes you'll be in a game for hours at a time, and that is fatiguing, and it's a strain on your body sitting in those positions for such a long time. So I'm really glad to hear that you guys put a focus on the physicality that needs to go along with esports as well. I mean, there's a reason that they describe them as athletes, really, because the top people in the game, you can see that they are also physical. They're not just there to play video games.
Correct. And parents appreciate that. So particularly when they're new to the school and they're doing a tour of the campus, we're very clear on that. And with this esports arena, it's closed during breaks.
Mm.
During break time, you're with your mates, you're socializing, you're on the multi-purpose court, you're kicking a ball, and that you're not going to sit in the sports arena, the esports arena, playing games. We have specific times for it. So again, it's exactly as you say, it's the balance.
Yeah, absolutely. So I just want to build off of that. What has the reaction been like from parents that you guys offer esports? Has there been pushback at all? What was their reaction like?
There hasn't been pushback at all. Parents love it. So parents who've come in, and why do they love it? Because they have seen their kids gaming. They've seen it. Most parents don't understand it. So few parents will take the time to get to understand it, but most parents don't. And here you're coming into an environment where something your child is absolutely passionate about, believes they are good at, and really can do well. And it's an educational institution with really top teachers, a very strong academic program, and a balance. So it's first prize. So our parents have been very supportive. And I mean, when we went to Dubai with to compete in that Minecraft tournament for the esports festival, the literally every single one of those boys' parents came with, and we were all in the arena, this massive arena, which was just incredible. And our boys were on stage competing, and the parents were screaming and shouting.
Wow.
We were supporting. I mean, it was unbelievable. And I actually sat there and I said to our head of school, to our principal in Puli Gameda, I said to him, my whole career I coached water polo at national level, the South African schools team. So I really took it to an extremely high level. And I never thought I would get those feelings again of sitting in a final, watching and being so on edge and screaming my lungs out. And that's exactly what happened. So, it's whether it's esports or a final water polo game of Gauteng versus Natal, the adrenaline was there. It was the same thing.
Oh, that's so nice to hear. That's such a good thing to hear, that there's this passion that transcends whether it's about a video game or about sport, whatever it may be. It's just great to see the unity that you guys are creating with kids and their parents, and parents getting involved in what their children are passionate about, because it is a massive market. Like in North America, they estimate that the esports market will be worth billions, in the upwards of the tens of billions by 2033. It's a massive growing market, and I think if you ignore it, you're doing the future generations a disservice, right? Because I think in the build up to this, I sent through some questions, and one of those questions, and we'll touch on it now, is about the ancillary stuff to esports. It's not just about the people on stage playing games. Like you mentioned that you guys have a casting room, and that's a big part of esports. I know with myself, I still watch the Dota 2 International every year, and the casters are such a big part of that. But in addition to that, there's also the production side, the people who are operating the feeds, the people who are putting the show together. And I'm wondering if you guys are also teaching that side of esports, the kind of support roles that are making sure that the players on stage just have to play and not worry about other things.
In designing we're still ongoing, because obviously, as you know, this is very new, so no one has really gone into this where you sort of bringing it into as part of a curriculum. So in part of our gaming studies design, we look at things where you have you're managing an esports team. How do you manage it? How do you put it together? And we game design. So right now, as I speak, our students in part of their gaming studies, they are busy designing a game that so 8C, for example, is designed designing a game that 8E will have to play, and 8E are designing a game that 8C will have to play, and they're being assessed on that. So we can, and assessed not because I want a mark out of it, but assessed on the difficulty, the functionality, the look of the feel. So you have a balanced scorecard which you kind of look at, which assesses that. So it's not just about the player playing the game as such. And I think it's something we will still continue to grow into and can still develop with, but there are huge aspects of it that we can go with. And we've got kids who are completely tech literate and love it. So from lighting to sound to that, and they get very involved. As you know, setting up for a tournament, you have all those aspects that have to be set up for a tournament to be successful, especially if you're casting or you're live streaming. So we've got students that are on our tech team, and they're gamers, but they're not in the first team gaming, for example. They're more social gamers, but they love the tech part of it. So we encourage that, and we develop that as much as we can.
That's awesome to hear, Sean. And it's really cool that you guys are also looking at the, like I said, the ancillary stuff to esports. And just for your mind, is this something that you guys are going to continue to develop and grow throughout the life of Centennial Schools? And then in particular, when you mentioned that you're looking at expanding into Cape Town, is this esports arena something you want to emulate in that part of the country as well?
Absolutely. It's in our DNA. So Centennial Schools will always have an esports arena. And sadly, for the first school, the next school will be an even better one. And the third school will be better. And so we will continue to do that and invest heavily in the tech side, in the tech side of it. You look at one of the strong values of it is in our sim races. We actually put on a Ford Fiesta. I think it's a Seta Corsa, is it? One of the games. Remember, I'm not the expert.
Yeah.
And we do a Ford Fiesta, and we actually teach our kids how to drive.
Oh.
So, and if you think about it, where do pilots start? They don't get in a plane and start flying. So in simulators. So we have a simulation of our students. So again, the educational aspect of it is really very, very good. So we've taken that. So that will definitely be in all of our, the sim races in all our schools. So esports, it's part of our DNA. It's who we are, and it's built into, it's built. The esports arena will be with every single Centennial Schools that we open.
And then just to bring this back to Centennial Schools as a whole, we know that AI is a hot topic at the moment. You mentioned a whole bunch of stuff that are kind of modern fields that you guys are embracing at Centennial Schools. I just want to find out if in future, when bigger technology innovations come around, are you going to embrace them as readily as you have the likes of esports?
Absolutely. I think we one of the things that we need, if you're going to succeed, I believe in the second quarter of the 21st century, the organizations, regardless of who they are, that are quickest to adapt to the new environments will be the ones that will be the most successful.
Fantastic. Sean, where can parents find out more about Centennial Schools?
So easiest is obviously on our website, centennialschools.co.za. Google us. That's also an easy one. Our socials are really strong. Our TikTok went ballistic. We opened the account last year. We have 150,000 followers. We have 2.3 million likes. Our top videos have been viewed individually 4 million times. We've had over 50 million views of our videos. So we have a huge following certainly on TikTok. And so often what's great is I'll bump into someone, or there's even a parent or a student. So what do you do at Centennial Schools? Oh, are you the TikTok school? Well, we're not the TikTok school, but we don't know of a school that's got that level of success.
Yeah.
Certainly on socials with 150,000 followers. I mean, not even if you think off the top of your head, the top schools in South Africa, many of them don't even have a TikTok account,
Yeah.
but those that do have barely got 2 or 3,000 followers. And I say that with absolute humility. I don't say that arrogantly at all. I just am incredibly proud of what we've done at Centennial Schools.
As you should be, Sean, as you absolutely should be. I think that you have a vision and you are following through on that vision. And I think that the only thing that can happen is that the students who graduate from Centennial Schools are better equipped to deal with modern life and are just equipped to deal with life itself. I mean, I think back to high school, and while I can remember some of the teachers that made an impact on my life, I can't remember much from what I learned back then.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's great to hear that you guys are investing in tangible subjects that are relevant, most importantly, to modern life and the future of our society. So, yeah, you have every right to be proud of what you have done. And
Thank you.
I'm looking forward to seeing Centennial Schools just grow from strength to strength.
Thank you. I appreciate the kind words, and yeah, it's amazing just coming to work every day. I absolutely love it, and I say to people so often, I'm living my dream. And I don't know many people that have that privilege.
Fantastic. Sean, thank you so much for joining us. I really appreciate your time.
Absolute pleasure. Thank you.
Thanks, Sean.